Good morning. Buenos dias. For those of you not familiar, I'm Marcus Nelson, the proud superintendent of the Waco Independent School District, and we have come together to celebrate the 2018 Waco ISD retirees. Although not all the retirees were able to make it to today's ceremony, it is important to note that the entire Waco ISD retiree class of 2018 represents 872 years of service to our district. Let's give them a round of applause. You know, I have a hard time putting my head around that figure. You think about how many lives have been touched by the men and women that we honor here today. Just this last week, I had an opportunity to go to one of our campuses, Hillcrest Elementary to be specific, and I was visiting with two retirees. One of them was Dr. Atua, which we'll recognize her here in a minute, and the other one was Mrs. Sandra Jennings. And as I walked into the school, I visited with the principal a little bit, and I told her I was here to see these two retirees that I feel like the whole city of Waco knows. And as Mrs. Jennings walked up, she had a young lady with her, and I was looking at this lady because I knew she was an elementary student. And it was a student that Mrs. Jennings had had many years ago. And Mrs. Jennings went on to explain that this week has been kind of chaotic because of the number of people that have heard that she was going to retire and made it part of their intention to come by and see her and wish her well. I know for all the retirees today, you probably have mixed emotions. Joy and happiness. I'm sure it's obviously an exciting time for you. You've earned this retirement. You've earned this change in routine. But I know I speak for everyone in the school system. There's a void that is left in our school district because of people like you. And I recognize that we probably won't realize it until the first day of school this fall. And not seeing some of you in our hallways, in our classrooms, in our faculty meetings, it's going to be hard to replace you. On behalf of the school district, I want to sincerely express our appreciation for your time and your effort and your dedication to our kids. You know, long gone are the days where people stay in the same school district for 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, 48. Those days, it doesn't happen very often. And as we see people coming to that point in their career, I think it's important for us to realize those people that have paved the way for people like me here today. I don't mean to be overly redundant about Mrs. Jennings, but as I talked to her, one of the things she told me about was teaching in Waco ISD in 1970. And she looked at me and she said, "You don't even understand how big a deal it is that you're standing here as superintendent." Because there was a day where we thought that would never happen. And as she told me some of the, I guess I want to say the other side of how this district has come to be, she walked me through desegregation. And she ended up at this time and place today where I'm honored and humbled to serve in this role. And as I think about that, I think it's like, I really can't fill those shoes. I really can't thank enough all of our retirees who paid the price. It's a labor of love. And I'm sure you see it when you go to HEB and in your churches and when people see you. And I know you probably don't remember everybody that you taught over these years. But just keep looking at them and acting like you do. Like, yeah, I know how you do. So, as you embark on a new stage of your lives that will be fun-filled and relaxing and full of many new and exciting adventures, I did want, on behalf of our Board of Trustees, to make sure you know how special you are to this school district, and you always have a place in WISD. Before I introduce our Honorable Board of Trustees, I did want to first of all thank a few people who helped make this happen. First of all, another round of applause for our students from the Waco High School Jazz Band. Did a great job. Also, I'd like to thank the Human Resources Department under the direction of Mrs. Elaine Knorr. Give her a round of applause. All the ladies that greeted you here this morning, they were here early and they've been working on this fast and furious. So thank you, ladies, for your hard work. And with that, please let me introduce the Board of Trustees. First of all, our president, Mr. Pat Atkins. Our vice president, Mr. Alan Sykes. Our secretary, Mr. Norman Manning. Please help me welcome board member, Mr. Kerry Dupuy. I'd also like the members of the cabinet to please stand. There's a few here and a few back there. Please stand real quick, be recognized. Thank you. And so with that, I think it's time to turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, who will help us recognize our retirees. I also wanted to recognize one other retiree who's been very special to me, Dr. Halliburton Francis, who has been the assistant principal, Francine Halliburton Francis, who has been assistant principal at Waco High School during my time here. And she's been a very good friend, and what I want you to know publicly, when I first got here, Dr. Francis pretty much told me that this is about it. She was wrapping it up. And one of the things she did was she gave me a book of poems that she had written herself. And boy, it was like a year ago. Well, not quite, about 9 months ago. You know, Mr. Jennings, my fraternity, we're about poems. We really do. And I read some of these poems, and it really reminds me of a poem from our fraternity that I will leave you with. It's called Bridge Builder. In this poem, it says, an old man going a lone highway came at the evening, cold and gray, to a chasm vast and wide and steep, with waters running cold and deep. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen streams had no fears for him, but he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, said fellow pilgrim near, you're wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day. You never again will pass this way. You've crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build you this bridge at evening tide? The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I've come, he said. There followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friends, we built these bridges for them. And as I think about the words of that poem, I want to say congratulations to the retirees. You've built bridges to success for thousands of students. And we can't thank you enough. But we wish you well in your retirement. Mrs. Patel.
I'm going to ask Dr. Nelson and the board if you could please align yourself in front of the stage, please. And thank you, Dr. Nelson, for those wonderful words. Good morning, family, friends, and guests. It is with great pleasure and honor that I introduce to you the 2018 Waco ISD retirees. As I call your name, please approach the stage right, and receive your award and congratulations from Dr. Nelson and the board, and make sure we get your picture before you return to your seat. Our first honoree, Miss Eula Lynette Basie. Ms. Basie is a teacher at J.H. Hines Elementary. Ms. Basie will be retiring from Waco ISD after 26 years of service in education, all in Waco ISD. In her most recent assignment, Ms. Basie taught 3rd grade at J.H. Hines Elementary. Her fondest memory is when one of her students asked her to show him how to make coffee because he wanted to make it for his grandmother. She used this opportunity to teach him about fractions, sequencing, writing, and other content. Years later, she saw the handsome young man, and he thanked her for believing in him. He told her, "If it had not been for you, I would not be what I am today." Ms. Basie's plans for the future include sleeping for about a week and then cleaning her house. Ms. Basie has been married for the last 26 years to a wonderful man, Emil. Congratulations, Mrs. Basie. Our next honoree, Jeffrey Davis. Mr. Jeffrey Davis is retiring from Waco ISD after 9 years of service in education, 5 of which were served in Waco ISD. His fondest memories include when his U.S. Skills USA chapter qualified for state and finished 4th in Audiovisual Quiz Bowl. He is also proud to have had perfect attendance in all of his years in Waco ISD. Mr. Davis plans to spend his downtime on his boat on Lake Waco, bond more with his grandchildren, and perform volunteer work with local charities. Mr. Davis is married to his wife, Judy Davis, and they have several grandchildren. Congratulations, Mr. Davis. Our next honoree, Lois Ferguson. Ms. Ferguson is retiring from Waco ISD after 28 years of service in education, serving the last 5 in Waco ISD. Her fondest memories have been working with all of her wonderful co-workers at the Bill Logue Detention Center. Ms. Ferguson's plans is to pursue a career in real estate, sales, and development and spend time with her family. Ms. Ferguson is married to her husband, Larry. She has 2 children, Brooke and Brad, son-in-law Luke, daughter-in-law Emily, and 2 grandchildren, Audrey and Avery. Congratulations, Mrs. Ferguson. Our next honoree, Dr. Francine Halliburton Francis, Assistant Principal, Waco High School. Ms. Francine Halliburton Francis is retiring from Waco ISD after 34 years in education, all of which served in Waco ISD. During her time with Waco ISD, she has worked at Jefferson Moore High, Waco High 9th Grade Center, Lake Air Middle School, Wiley Middle School, West Avenue, Doris Miller Elementary, Wiley Opportunity Center, Carver Middle School, and lastly, Waco High. Her fondest memories are of the many opportunities that she has given to convince students to change for the better, academically and socially. Dr. Francis plans to travel, read, write, support her husband's ministry, and support the continued success of Waco ISD students. Dr. Francis is married to her husband, Monty Francis Sr. Congratulations, Dr. Francis. Our next honoree, James Scott Hamilton, teacher, Brazos High School. Mr. Hamilton is retiring from Waco ISD Brazos High School after 14 years in education. Prior to serving at Brazos High, Mr. Hamilton also taught at Stars High School. Mr. Hamilton's fondest memories include the time spent with the former principal and staff of Stars High, where he coordinated the dual credit program from his classroom on the TSTC campus. While at Stars, his peers voted him twice as Teacher of the Year, and he also was awarded the High School of the Year for TSTC. Mr. Hamilton is looking forward to spending time with his wife, family, and friends, but will also welcome the opportunity to help others. Mr. Hamilton has been married to his wife, Mindy, for 41 years. They have 2 sons, both currently serving our country in the U.S. Air Force. Very proud of that. 2 wonderful daughter-in-laws and 5 precious grandchildren. Congratulations, Mr. Hamilton. Our next honoree, Sandra Brown Jennings, teacher, Hillcrest PBS. Ms. Jennings is retiring after 48 years in Waco ISD. She taught at Mountain View Elementary, Parkdale, and Crestview Elementary before completing her career at Hillcrest PDS. Ms. Jennings has fond memories of the special relationships she has had with colleagues, students, and parents. She has enjoyed opportunities to teach and work with former students and to see former students become successful and productive adult citizens. In the future, Ms. Jennings plans to volunteer, take better care of her health, and continue to enjoy life. Ms. Jennings is married to her wonderful husband, Henry Jennings. They have 1 son, Clay, and daughter-in-law, Belinda, and 2 grandchildren, Kinsey and Kirby. Congratulations, Mrs. Jennings. Our next honoree, Walter May King. Mrs. Walter May King is retiring from Waco ISD after serving the last 12 years at G.W. Carver Middle School and University Middle School and the Challenge Academy. Her teaching career spans 47 years, including at schools in Chicago, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. Mrs. King's fondest memories include completing Gifted and Talented certification, coaching the winners of UIL competitions, and receiving notes from students stating that they enjoyed her math class and her different strategies for problem solving. Ms. King has written math lessons and activities for several publications. In the future, she hopes to complete 2 math books on multiplication and strategies. Ms. King has a son, Gregory Lee King, and grandson, Michael Dell Davis. Congratulations, Mrs. King. The next honoree, Denise Mccall. Mrs. Mccall is retiring from Waco ISD after 26 years of service in education, all served at Provident Heights Elementary. In addition to teaching at Provident Heights, she also attended the school as a student from 3rd to 6th grade. As a Waco High School graduate, it was an honor to teach in Waco ISD. Ms. McCall's fondest memories are from the students and staff she has had the privilege of working with and developing friendships along the way. Ms. McCall plans to rest, go where God leads her, and spend more time with family and friends. She is married to Jimmy. They have 3 children, Jill, Jonathan, and Jason, as well as 3 grandchildren, Zane, Ambry, and Caleb. Congratulations, Mrs. McCall. Our next honoree, Sherry Noelle. Mrs. Noelle is retiring after a total years of 40 years in education. She has taught at Lake Air Montessori for the past 24 years. Her fondest memory is providing a Montessori education to the children who would not be able to afford Montessori in the private sector. Ms. Noelle's future plans include training teachers to teach Montessori and consulting with other schools. Ms. Noelle has 1 son, Garrett Noelle. Congratulations, Mrs. Noelle. Our next honoree, Elaine Knorr. Mrs. Knorr is retiring from Waco ISD after a total of 26 years of service in education, with the last 5 years at the McLennan County Challenge Academy. Mrs. Knorr's fondest memory is of the many great people she met and the support she received from them. She will never forget their wonderful personalities. Mrs. Knorr plans to take trips and care for her grandson, Kenny. Ms. Knorr is married to Jerry. They have 2 children, Jerome and Karen, and of course her grandson, Kenny. Congratulations, Mrs. Knorr. Our next honoree, Dr. Bianca Atua. Dr. Bianca Atua is retiring from Waco ISD after 35 years of service in education, all served in Waco ISD at Hillcrest PDS. Her fondest memories include the wonderful memories created by the excitement at the beginning of and end of each school year, as well as completing her PhD in educational psychology at Baylor University. Dr. Ochoa plans to spend more time with her 4 grandchildren who are growing faster than she thought possible. In addition, she plans to travel with her husband and visit family and friends. She is married to her husband, Ralph. They have 2 sons, Santiago and Angelo, 2 daughter-in-laws, Christina and Jamie, and 4 grandchildren. Her sons and daughter-in-laws are all teachers as well. Congratulations, Dr. Ochoa. Our next honoree, Mr. Jose Perez. Mr. Perez is retiring from Waco ISD after 24 years of service in education, all in Waco ISD at Cesar Chavez Middle School. Mr. Perez's future plans include teaching somewhere closer to the beach. Mr. Perez is married. He has 3 children and 1 grandchild. Congratulations, Mr. Perez. Our next honoree, Lisa Richards. After a total of 32 years in education, Ms. Richards is retiring after serving the last 26 with Waco ISD at Kendrick and Sol Ross Elementary School. Ms. Richards will always remember how much she enjoyed working with the many great teachers throughout her career at Waco ISD, especially other wonderful Reading First coaches. Her plans for the future include relaxing for a bit before beginning to look for a second career. Ms. Richards' family consists of her sister Cheryl Stallings, nephews Jason and Aaron, niece Meredith, grandnephews Maxwell, Sage, and grandniece Katia. Congratulations, Mrs. Richards. Our next honoree is Stella Salazar. Salazar. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Ms. Estela Salazar is retiring from Waco ISD after serving as a custodian for the past 20 years. Ms. Salazar plans on traveling to Mexico and California to spend time with her family. She has 3 sons, 1 daughter, and 6 grandchildren. Congratulations, Ms. Salazar. Our next honoree, Julie Vines. Ms. Julie Vines is retiring after 31 years of service in education, 24 of those with Waco ISD at Crestview Elementary, Hillcrest PDS, Brook Avenue Elementary, and South Waco Elementary. Her fondest memories include organizing the many Special Olympics for the campus in seeing the students develop pride, courage, and joy through this program. Ms. Vines has been blessed with the journey God has given her by being the teacher to special needs students. Ms. Vines plans to spend time with her grandchildren and her mom. In addition, she will volunteer at Outreach Therapeutic Writing Center. Ms. Vines is married to her husband, Jim. She has a daughter, Kayla, son-in-law, Kelsey, and 3 grandchildren. Congratulations, Mrs. Vines. Next honoree, Maurice Walker. Mr. Maurice Walker is retiring from Waco ISD after 25 years in education, 23 of which were served in Waco ISD. In addition to working as a math instructional specialist at South Waco Elementary, he served at other campuses, including Hillcrest PDS, Parkdale Elementary, and West Avenue. His fondest memory comes from the times when he sees his former students. Year after year, they have been in his class, and they tell him, "We had fun in your class, and we learned a lot." Mr. Walker is intrigued with the thought of his future, which includes starting an after-school learning center, 3rd to 5th grade in math and reading. Mr. Walker is married to his wife, Gloria Walker. They have 2 daughters, Kanisha and Whitney, 2 son-in-laws, Deshaun and Dominique, and 4 grandchildren, Quincy, Diana, Nicholas, and Elizabeth. Congratulations, Mr. Walker. And our final honoree, Miss Victoria Ward. PDS Site Coordinator, Hillcrest PDS. Ms. Victoria Ward is retiring from Waco ISD after 47 years in education. All served in Waco ISD. In addition to working at Bells Hill Elementary, she has served at North Waco Elementary, Hillcrest PDS, and A.J. Moore Academy. One of her fondest memories was while working at Hillcrest PDS. She had a student who was in her classroom for about 6 weeks that could not read. Now, she was walking by his desk, she noticed he had a beautiful drawing. When she asked him who drew the picture, he responded that he had. And with that said, she was able to teach him to read through his drawing. Future plans for Ms. Ward include visiting her many grandchildren and spending time with her husband. Ms. Ward is married to Mr. Willie Ward. She has 3 children, Gloria, Vicky, and Corley, as well as 9 grandchildren. Congratulations, Mrs. Ward. Let's give another round of applause for our class of 2018 retirees. And now I would like to invite our board president, Pat Atkins, for a few words and final thoughts. Mr. Atkins.
Wow. What an amazing morning. First of all, join me once again in thanking Elaine Boteo and her staff for making this a really special morning for our retirees. I want to briefly do 2 things. One, I want to join you as we sort of reflect back on your careers in education. And then I want to look ahead towards your retirement and maybe challenge you a little bit. You know, we've all heard the cliches. Children are our greatest resource. Children are our future. But you guys didn't just give this lip service. You gave it your entire lives. Your heart and your soul were spent, in some cases as many as the last 48 years, tending to the young people in this community. And I think in those years you've learned that to truly make an impact, it's not about vertical alignment of curriculum or professional development. It's about approaching this job with your heart and with caring, showing those children that someone believes in them and giving them someone to believe in. In a lot of cases, just doing this with love. a huge part of what you do is all about relationships. You know, Dr. James Comer, the renowned educational or child psychiatrist at Yale, said no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. Maya Angelou said it a little different. She said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. You know, Dr. Nelson referenced going to HEB, and I've told several of you, it is powerful to go over to the frozen food section, because apparently that's where all my wife's former students hang out, and see these young people come running up to her, and seeing that bond and that relationship that exists not only with her current students, but students that she had years ago. And you have a unique opportunity in what you've done for these last several years to form that relationship. But it's not only forming that relationship, it's then allowing that relationship to allow you to become agents of change in the lives of young people. Tomorrow's graduation. And we're going to hand out a lot of diplomas, and we're going to listen to a lot of speeches. And I always reflect back to a commencement address I heard from the salutatorian at University High several years ago. Because he was clearly introverted, clearly not comfortable stepping to the podium in front of the crowds at the Heart of Texas Coliseum. I guess now the Extraco Event Center, Alan, sorry. And she just opened up and started telling her story. Her family had moved for years and years, and so she never allowed herself to form any friendships. She never really planned on even graduating high school. And in fact, she got involved at University High, got involved in the journalism department, and then her sophomore year, her family was about to move again. And then a teacher literally took her into her home and became her temporary guardian. And that child graduated number 2 in her class, got a full ride scholarship to Texas A&M because that teacher reached out and became an agent of change in the life of that child. And she closed her commencement address with saying this: University High School, in my mind, is the best school in the world because they don't give up on anyone. They see potential in every child that walks through their doors. You know, Tony Award-winning musical Hamilton, there's a line that I always thought was powerful after he was shot, and I mentioned it at Convocation a couple of years ago. He talks about what his legacy, and he says it's planting seeds in a garden that you'll never see. And I always thought that was powerful. I remember telling Sandy just what a powerful, insightful line that was. And I remember her shrugging her shoulders and saying, welcome to my world. Because as a teacher, you don't always see that legacy years later. We give you test results at the end of the year, and you get to see that. But seeing what that child actually becomes, seeing the role they assume in their community and in their church, seeing the role model they become to their children, the good neighbor they become, you don't always get to see that. You know, Dr. Nelson referenced going to Hillcrest to congratulate Dr. Atua and Ms. Jennings. And 2 weekends ago, they had a reception at the school. And it probably rained, what, 2 inches that day at the start of the reception. And so there was lots of reason. It was a Sunday afternoon. There was plenty of reason for folks to stay home and not show up. And yet that cafeteria was full. Full not only of colleagues, but former students. And they had this unique opportunity to get to see part of that legacy they had created in this community. Having these young people come up, and now adults come up, and just say thank you. And it was powerful, and it was moving, and it was something special that not all of you get to see, but it's significant. You know, we gave you those clocks, and I've told the folks at this breakfast the last couple of years, I think it's symbolic, obviously, because of the time you've spent. But it would probably be even better if the hands on that clock started out moving slowly, and then as time went by, start moving faster and faster and faster and faster until they finally look like the propeller on a plane. Because it does go by fast. Every one of you sitting here can probably remember being a young teacher and walking into that empty classroom for the first time with your bucket of books and things you're going to put up on that bulletin board, and just knowing that deep down you wanted to change the world. And what I'm here to do this morning is to assure you that all the campuses and all the students have walked through your doors, you have. So let me challenge you as we look ahead to the future. You know, y'all remember a couple of years ago there was this crazy fad of bungee jumping where people would take a giant rubber band and tie it to their ankle and then jump off a bridge for some crazy reason and then bounce up and down. In fact, whenever they were doing that, years ago there was a bungee jump platform at South Padre Island. And I got to talk to a long-term resident down there, and he said in the late 90s, early 2000s, these two guys from Boston came down and created that bungee jump platform. And they wanted to just demonstrate it and show what it was, because people had no idea what this thing was. And so the first guy got out there and he went out to the edge, and it was one of the owners from the Northeast, and he went off, and he went down. As he came up, he started screaming, "Pull me up, pull me up." And he went down again, and he came up and he says, "Pull me up." And his partner could see his shirt was getting torn. And he went down again and said, "Pull me up." So he finally gets him up on the platform, and his shirt's torn, and he's kind of bruised in the face. And he said, "What happened?" And his partner says, "I have no idea, but what in the world's a piñata?" Each of you is approaching the edge of that platform. You're about to jump off the edge and free fall and not know exactly what the future holds for you. And I was moved as I was standing down there, because I heard you say your future, probably the most honest was, "I'm going to get some rest and then clean the house." But the rest of you said, "I'm going to spend time on my boat. I'm going to see my grandchildren. I want to travel. I want to spend more time with family." But here's my challenge. I didn't hear anybody say, "I'm going to spend my retirement years fighting for the future of public education." You know, at the TASB conference, Dr. McDermott and I at the very end got to hear a guy named Jamie Vollmer speak. And he talked about the importance of change in public education. And he talked about how the schools can't do it by themselves. The change has to happen, but educators in the public schools cannot make these changes. They can only occur with the understanding, trust, permission, and active support of the surrounding community. And we're doing things like that in the Waco community. You know, when my kids were growing up, I used to talk to them a lot about the American miracle, this government in this country, and the miracle that we have here. You know, critical times in our history, we've always had leaders, whether it was the Civil War, the Great Depression, the Civil Rights Movement of the late 1960s, maybe even the Great Recession of 2008, who were able to set aside ideology and politics and just make the right decision, do what was practical, do what we needed to take this country forward and get past that crisis. And part of it comes from an inherent belief by us, the citizenry, in our systems. We all believe somebody can take the presidency having lost the popular vote. And unlike countries in Latin America, we don't have riots and protests and folks stepping aside, because we all believe in the legitimacy of this system. We believe in the structures. We believe in the country. We believe in those institutions that were created by the Constitution. And yet there are people now who are going out and continually attacking and questioning the validity of those systems. And it happens in public education. Public education didn't get created in the Constitution, but Jamie Vollmer in that speech gave an interesting history of public education. You know, the Trib did an article where they interviewed Jimmy Don Aycock last month, and they were talking about the attacks on public education, and the Trib said, "So where are all the outraged educators?" And he said, "Oh, educators are screaming, they just don't vote much. They just generally don't vote." So here's my challenge to you. You do need to spend time with your families, and you do need to travel, and you need to enjoy all those things that you've been looking forward to in retirement. But don't forget about us. You now have an opportunity to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. You have an opportunity to continue to advocate for public education. You have an opportunity to continue to make a difference in the lives of young people in this community. Whether it's as a mentor, whether it's getting involved in organizations like Prosper Waco, where you can continue to make changes in the lives of young people in this community, whether it's just voting. But we do something special in this district every day. We go about changing the lives of young people and doing everything we can to ensure that no one's left behind in this community. Don't give up on that. Don't forget about that as you move into your retirement years. There's still an opportunity for you to truly be a part of something much bigger than you and to help us take this community forward. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope all of you have a wonderful summer, and to our retirees, thank you. And I say that as a parent, as a board member, and a member of this community. And congratulations.